Hello and welcome to the Coach Your Kids Right podcast. I am Skip La Cour. I'm so glad you're joining me for another Coach Your Right Kids podcast. Hey, this podcast is for the parents of young children, 5 to 8 years old. This is your first time through with your children. You don't have older children who have gone the whole sports route. It's all new to you. All right, you've got the ambition. You're looking for distinction, trying to figure this stuff out to give your child the best chance to be a great athlete right from the start and to enjoy the tremendous, and I tell you, there are tremendous personal development lessons to be learned along the way. You want to take advantage of all the personal development growth that comes with your kids' participation in sports. So if that sounds like you are at the right podcast. I'm so glad you are here. In this podcast, I want to talk about long-term rewards, mastering the fundamentals from day one. Mastering the fundamentals from day one. I tell you right now, this is an exciting time of year for my kids. Again, I've got a son who's going to be turning 9 this week. I have a daughter who's 10 and a half. And right now we're finishing a CYO basketball season. And then starting next week, we start Sunday flag football, both my son and my daughter, 4th grade and 3rd grade teams. Next week, my son starts travel baseball, high-level baseball for this area as a 9-year-old. All right. He also is gearing up for in about 20 days, the regional free throw shooting contest. My daughter is starting house ball, softball, her season, and they both are starting spring basketball for AAU basketball. So it's a real exciting time. I just got done with my kids, and we spent the time doing a couple things. One is we want to finish off this CYO basketball season. We're about halfway through. We want to really identify what we want to get out of these last few games, right? Identify it and work hard for it, all right? End this story off on a high note, right? What we have to do that. Right, so one thing, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. I got from one of our powerhouse high schools in my area. There was a movie made. They had this tremendous football winning streak, and what they had are these commitment cards. All right, your commitment to the team, how you're going to deliver. Right, so that's something that I'll talk more about. But with the games, my daughter has a game today, later on tonight, and my son has a game tomorrow. Right. Making their commitment cards today so it marinates. They can think about it all day until the game in a few hours, and then my son tomorrow. What are their goals? What things are they going to focus on? I'll tell you, that is a real big deal and a real a game changer, and I'll talk more about that in a future Coach Your Kids Right podcast, how we all break that down, how it's benefited us. All right, but I spent this time talking to my daughter, how she's on this flag football team. Now, she's going to be competing the boys, and it's a unique situation because, here in California, high school girls flag football has become an official sport. It started last year. Now, my daughter's only in the 4th grade, but she happens to be on a flag football team with, I think there's 12 girls and 1 boy on it, and they're going to be competing against all boys. All right, so it's an exciting time for her. But tomorrow the team's going to get together. And I had her envision and to dream and to think about it, right? First, I let her, what do you want to get out of this, right? And then that's where I come in and give her the guidance, and I hypnotize her to want to have that, right? You don't tell your kids. They got to buy into it, right? So that whole process, and that's something we can talk about on another Coach Your Kids Right podcast, is how do you want to show up, right? Know in advance. Right? When the coach has you all run around for a lap, which they do in football, where are you going to come in the pack? Think about it now. Do you want to win? Do you want to be the leader, the physical leader, right? Because I could tell you, I've done this before, is that, something as simple as that, the kids aren't going to think about it. Some might not even think about, hey, I was always come in the middle of the pack when we have to run around. They're not going to think about that till, 5 or 10 sessions running around. Who knows, right? Make the decision who you're going to be right now and not make adjustments. Oh, wow, Jane always wins. Molly always wins. Hey, why don't I? Well, let's decide that now, right? Who she wants to be, how she wants to carry herself as a leader, right from the very beginning. Have her think about that. All right. So it's an exciting time. Just had that conversation. But, in this podcast, I want to talk about the fundamentals from day one. So what do I mean by that, right? Because isn't the fundamentals subjective, right? I'm going to stick to baseball, softball, basketball, and football as I describe sports because, those are the ones that I participate. Everything else would be theory. I might offer theories, and I'll let you know they're theories because I don't have kids that play soccer, and I don't have kids that swim, and I know those are popular, right? So, you see where that applies and come up with it. I won't necessarily give examples that I don't know about, right? Right. So what would be the fundamentals? Let's just talk about that flag football. Let's start there. All right. So I made a decision from the very beginning with my son and also with my daughter when I played catch with them. And, I'm at the stage where I'm trying to get them to not fight all the time, not compete all the time, and use each other to practice, save me sometimes. So, I could concentrate on other things of my responsibility as a dad. So if they can play together, work hard together, not compete each other, not scream and cry, I'm still working that out, right? They've got a perfect opportunity to help themselves out if they can work as a team, working on it, right? But so, a couple things is with the football, how are they passing the football? Right? What technique? Now, again, if your child's 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, right? What really can you expect from them? And I guess that's what I want you to think about, right? But one thing is catching the ball, right? And so this is sports specific, but they got to catch that football with their hands and not let it go into their body every chance they can, and not just catch with their hands. You go out and catch the ball with your hands. I mean, that's a simple skill that you may not see any kids doing it at 5 or 6, but they're going to eventually have to do that. What if they could do that now? Is that if you're aware of that, and again, they're only 5 or 6 or 7, they naturally want to catch it with their body. All right? It's going to take you to put the importance in here. I don't know if I'm the only one. I want to hear your comments with everything I talk about. I want to hear your questions and your insight as we go through this process together as parents, right? But, catch it. I am not kidding. With my son, who, again, he's turning 9, and we started playing football at 5 or something, I have told him to catch the ball with his hands, right? Consistently every time he does it. Maybe a couple of times. I said, I'm not going to say it for the 100th time this passing session, but catch the ball with your hands. I would not be surprised if I said that to him 5,000 times in the last 3 years, right? Okay. Reiterating that fundamental, because really, if you make them aware, it isn't that much more skill to catch with your hands and catch with your body. It was a lot of work, it was a lot of persistence. It, I guess, took foresight and importance, but I'll tell you, with him playing football, tackle football, the hands he has, just by forcing him to do the fundamentals right from the beginning, right? Rather than, and that's the choice we all make, or the decision we have to make, because whether it's swinging a bat, catching a football, throwing a ball, shooting a basketball, I'll kind of touch on all those for some specifics. But I really believe if you're willing to do the work and you know what to identify, it doesn't take any more work to teach them how to do it right, do it the way a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old would do it, to teach them that now. So, and football would be, how to throw the ball. And, YouTube can tell you the specifics probably better than me on how they would do it. You just have to shoot for it and then create those standards and reiterate it 5,000 times, right? Catching the ball with their hands, even at a young age. See, I think with football, if you just did those two things, right? Now you're setting up for massive success, and they'll separate themselves from the rest, and they'll build the confidence that, wow, I am better than the rest. I do something differently. I worked on this. I've gone through the journey with my dad, right? With baseball, that they're and getting back to flag football. I mean, here we are in the 3rd grade. There's a lot of great kids with great athletes. They can't throw a football. My daughter can throw a football better, and she's not necessarily awesome, outstanding, off the charts. They can't catch with their hands, even in the 4th grade. Right? It just wasn't emphasized. Those two very basic things that can set the foundation for success in that whole sport, how they think about themselves in that whole sport. Right? Let's go to baseball, right? 2 things is how they throw, how they stretch out. Again, you can look for YouTube, what does it take? But the mechanics of throwing the ball, okay, and then their swing. Now, the swing sometimes gets a little bit more complicated. What I want you to at least consider is I see this all the time. Great families, they love their son. They love their daughter. They're pushing, they're taking a higher level. They're ambitious. The kid is good. He is functionally good. He can hit the ball and he can throw the ball probably better than most of the kids out there. The parents did some work. But you know what? That throwing motion, I see him. Here's this big body, this one who's functional, and they don't have the throwing. And I mean, it's not just a little off. I'm not like nitpicking. It just was never learned. The swing, it was never learned early. And the challenge now is that they're functional. They're good. They're good now at throwing. I mean, they could throw it hard and accurate. Just somewhere along the line, that's got to change. That swing, they may hit the ball, they may get hits, but that swing, it's functional now, but they're gonna run into a brick wall later on. The decision is, are you gonna do it early, right? Or are you gonna just let them be functional? I know, just give them the confidence to hit the ball, to throw the ball, to make a basket, to catch the ball at all, right? Hey, Skip, I'm happy with that. Let's give them the confidence, and later on, I'll work on that. I don't know. Then it may be harder, especially if they become good at it. And if they are not good at it, maybe you should have thought about those basics at the beginning. And I know it's a lot of work, and I know you got a lot of things going on besides your kids' sports. But it's some things to think about. If it's going to take time, is it that there isn't enough time? Are you not spending the time? Or you just weren't aware of this? And, maybe I'm getting you to think about it, and then you'll see the importance. But tell you, I see, so that's in baseball. They can hit the ball, but wow, that swing, it's functional. But when they start playing it against, the kids that are just as talented, and they did learn those, and not to mention in the future, you're going to wish that you would have emphasized, don't even let them get comfortable with that wonky swing or that short arm throw. You didn't want them to get comfortable with catching the ball in their chest or kind of throwing it that way, throwing the football that way. Basketball, I see this all the time. Letting the ball roll off your fingertips, shooting it with one hand versus let them wing it over their shoulder, whatever. I know when the kids are very young, I mean, you got to just get the ball up. They're lucky if they make it. But I really don't think, if you taught them how to shoot it one-handed off their fingertips, backspin, right? Like I said, my daughter, I'm not necessarily talking about accuracy is off the chart, but man, she's got a beautiful shot with backspin. It rolls off her fingertip just because, she was taught and it stuck. And I see 5th grade boys that are really good. Man, they're throwing knuckleballs and side spinning shots, and they may make them, but somewhere along the line, they're going to have to catch that ball, line it up, and shoot off their fingertips. And again, I know there's a lot of things they're trying to do. And you might be saying, Skip, you're crazy, man. You're crazy, man. I don't have the time and all this. I appreciate your energy, but I don't have time to do that with my kids. I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm not telling you how to prioritize it. I'm just giving you some things to think about. If you can, you do it, not. But what I want for you is to say, hey, these are what I see coming up for you. And again, so my kids are fresh out of the 5 to 8 range, and I went through this. And if I had a podcast of this, I would have loved that, whether I did it or not. Just knowing what's ahead, and when I was going through it, that it wasn't like, am I the only one thinking this? Am I the only one where my son doesn't listen or my daughter doesn't listen? Why do I have to tell them 5,000 times? Just knowing you're not the only one going through it gives you peace of mind and keep on keeping on. All right, and we all have to do with what we want to do with it, but I guess the question is, and I talked about football, the hands, the way you throw. Talked about baseball, the swing, the way they throw. I talked basketball, shooting. Dribbling is another thing. Dribbling is the key to everything, and that's just a matter of reps and a ball, right? Even if they become good at shooting, but they don't become good at dribbling at such a fundamental. It's what to emphasize in the limited amount of time you have to get the maximum results. But my message is that you should really think about what are those couple key things in every sport that most kids don't do, and you can get by without doing them and become functional and even good. But in the long term, you're going to have to switch it. You're going to run into a brick wall. You're going to peak out, at 9 years old, 10 years old. So is it a better decision, even if you think they might be less functional, less effective? Is it better now to teach them those fundamentals that they'll need later on now? See, I don't think. I think if you compare the two, I think if you knew what to do and you were persistent, the journey isn't going to be any more frustrating or longer necessarily. I don't think. I have the belief that I don't think that it takes a lot more skill level. It takes instructions and repetition the right way. Repetition's the right way. All right. So, hey, tell me what you think of this podcast. You think I'm an idiot? You think, man, you're crazy. It doesn't work that way. Trust me, I've been through this, or I've gone through. Hey, I'd love to hear your feedback, good or bad, or somewhere in between. You got questions? Go ahead and ask me. Leave your comments in the comment section of this podcast. YouTube, like, share, love. Give me your comments. All right, give me some feedback as we go along this journey together. That's going to do it for this Coach Your Kids Right podcast. School, sports, and mindset is the bullseye. Have a great day.